Greetings, fellow Whovians, and welcome to Timey Wimey Review, where today I review the final adventure for the 10th Doctor, The End of Time. Because what better way to celebrate Christmas than to watch your favourite hero, or for many Whovians, their favourite incarnation of the Doctor, perish. I wanted to split this review up into two parts, so not only will I review part one in this episode, but also wanted to do a bit of a retrospective look of how we got to this finale for David Tennant. So if you feel like giving an extra Christmas present, please hit the subscribe button. It will really help out this channel. Let's begin. So let's go back to October 2008, where David Tennant received the award for Best Drama Performance for Doctor Who for season 4 of Doctor Who, and live via satellite, because he was playing Hamlet at the time, he accepted the award. And then with a lot of nervousness and obviously a lot of emotion coming through, that he was saying that in 2009 it'll be back for 4 more specials, but after 2010 it won't be with me, it'll be with someone else. And that's when he announced that he was leaving Doctor Who. And what a way to announce that you are leaving. I think we've not really had that since then, to be honest. It's always been through either social media or, no sort of live announcements like that. And I remember actually catching this by accident. I was up in my bedroom at my parents' house, and I just decided to just flick on the National Television Awards and just hearing it in the background. And then I heard David Tennant's name come up, and then just stood still for 2 minutes whilst David announced that he was leaving. And I even heard my mum downstairs saying, "Chris, are you watching this on ITV?" I was like, "Yeah, I know." So yeah, it was a bit of a, I felt like it was a shock at the time. I don't know why. You just kind of think, oh, he's just going to go on forever and ever. But that's not the whole part of the show. The show is time moves on. And I think he felt at that time that was the right time to go. I know in other sort of documentaries and stuff, when obviously Russell T Davies announced that he was leaving, in fact, the whole sort of crew was going on to pastures new, and Stephen Moffat was announced as the new showrunner. There was temptation from David Tennant to carry on into series 5 of Doctor Who, but that never came to be. He stuck to his guns and announced that he was leaving. And let me know in the comments below your memories from when David announced that he was leaving at the National Television Awards. Fast forward to a year later, and the BBC are really ramping up this end of an era for Doctor Who. And they definitely did put a bit of a spectacle on for David Tennant. I remember David being in quite a few different panel shows for the BBC, such as QI, and being the guest host for the music comedy game show Never Mind the Buzzcocks, alongside Catherine Tate and Bernard Cribbins. That was a really cool special. Really enjoyed that one out a lot. And even the Christmas idents had the 10th Doctor basically using the TARDIS as a sleigh. And I'm sure David Tennant did some continuity announcements as well, when maybe for the second part of The End of Time. I can't quite remember. Again, correct me in the comments if you remember those idents as well. And I feel that all this spectacle was quite rightly deserved for David. Obviously, Christopher Eccleston put all the groundwork for series 1 of modern Doctor Who, and very much thankful to him. I think if he wasn't believable as the Doctor, I don't think we still would be talking about Doctor Who to this day. But obviously David Tennant took over the reins, and I would say for his tenure really got the nation to his heart, really. The nation absolutely, the UK absolutely loved and adored David's incarnation of the Doctor. Certainly put Doctor Who into the mainstream, especially that amazing cliffhanger at Stolen Earth. And then it just kind of just been swept up all through here. And like I said, from that announcement at the National Television Awards, and then sort of building all that up until we got to here. part one of The End of Time, originally broadcast on Christmas Day on BBC One 2009. Just in case you don't know the plot, the 10th Doctor, still running away from his own fate, has been summoned by the Ood, where their visions foresee a future where something is returning that threatens the whole of creation. These visions also involve the Doctor's old enemy, the Master, a wealthy and powerful man from Earth, Joshua Naismith, and Donna Noble, the Doctor's former companion's grandfather, Wilfred Mott. I want to start off with John Sim as the Master, or the Harold Saxon incarnation of the Master, resurrected by this weird cult, which was kind of explained, not really, just go with the flow with that one. Obviously, when we last saw the Master, this was all to do with the last of the Time Lords from Series 3 of modern Doctor Who. It was thought that the Master was presumed dead, but in the ring and with Lucy as well, we kind of had this convoluted cult that the Master managed to conjure up somehow, that through magic and wizardry he returns. That'll do. I'm not sure about that. I know that the Master has, all these wonderful plans and backup plans and insurances just in case his main victory goes squashed at some point. But I feel that was kind of a little bit convoluted, but I think the way the pacing was set for this episode, it doesn't really matter, because I think you're just all excited that John Sim is returning as the Master, having done a really good job of this incarnation when we last saw him in Series 3. But this version, he's just absolutely, the insanity has been ramped up to 10. And the scenes in the wasteland between the Master and the Doctor is just out of this world. The Master, or John Sim, is just being so intense and just scary and psychotic. Especially when he's talking about all the food and Christmas and all the grease and the fat and the wine and the chocolate, and they eat and eat and eat and eat and eat. And then that scene where he's at the wasteland just gorging on this cheeseburger, and then obviously later on in this episode when he's just gorging on that chicken or that turkey. I'm not gonna lie, that's me on Christmas Day. I just think of that when I'm just plowing into my food. But yeah, the intensity that John Sims brings in this episode is just on another level, and him and David Tennant just really work well together. Speaking of the Master as the character, again, really love this incarnation that John Sim has brought to the table. I'm not sure about all the Master's kind of extraterrestrial powers that he has from this resurrection. Obviously, it's kind of explained that he's using up all his sort of Time Lord energy, and he's just expending all this energy. And I like the lightning stuff that he was doing. I think that kind of makes sense. We're all sort of like electrically charged as a human being, and obviously Time Lord probably even more so. So that kind of makes sense that, he's ramping it all up to 10, burning through all his Time Lord energy, probably all of his regenerations in one go. I love I felt actually that there was a lot of previous incarnations of the Masters in John Sims' performance in this episode, where we kind of had the laugh, bit similar to Anthony Ainley's laugh, the sort of clever intensity that Roger Delgado had. When you saw the Master's translucent skull, that reminded me of the sort of wrecked incarnation of the Master that we saw in The Deadly Assassin. And also, yeah, with the weird powers and stuff like that, that's kind of a bit like Eric Roberts' version of the Master in the Doctor Who TV movie as well. The one nitpick that I have with those weird powers was the flying around kind of stuff, or the high jumps and things. That was a bit too much too far for me. in my opinion. You might have liked it. That's fair enough. I thought the running makes sense. The electrical charging makes sense. And obviously the translucent skull, but that, the effects doesn't quite hold up to that. I think that was just too much of an ask on a BBC budget. And again, that scene in the wasteland with the two other homeless people where he does that weird high jump and apparently he flies down and eats them whole. I don't know. I'm assuming that's what happened. Surely that would have just broke his jaw and probably killed the master off straight away. So I would have avoided that and done like the sort of electrically charged demon psychotic master. The other scene stealer in this episode is the cafe scene between the Doctor and Wilf. And that's even more so and even more heartbreaking with the recent passing of Bernard Cribbins earlier this year. Rest in peace. Oh gosh, that the line where the Doctor says, don't you dare, we're all gonna die one day. And Wilfred said, I'll try not to, don't you dare. Yeah, it's heartbreaking stuff now. But Bernard, well, both were amazing, but I'll start off with Bernard. Who knew what kind of journey he would have had in Doctor Who, being the cameo, making the cameo appearance in The Voyage of the Damned, and obviously Fate played a different card that he was lucky enough to come back as Donna Noble's grandfather. And yeah, what a time he had in Doctor Who. And he is such a really good actor. Obviously David is bringing the emotional side of the 10th Doctor. He's a broken man. He doesn't want to go, he doesn't want to leave. And obviously there's a bridging the gap between when we last saw the Doctor in the Waters of Mars up until now. And the sort of read into the Big Finish audio Time Lord Victorious as you will. And yeah, David's emotion is just raw. And and he's buckling and hiding the tears until he just can't do it no more. And yeah, it's such a heartbreaking, very emotional scene, very powerful scene from David Tennant, but it totally complemented by Bernard Cribbins' wonderful acting, and just giving David that time and giving the amazing responses, the correct responses, I would say. And the scene wouldn't have worked without one or the other. It's I wouldn't say they're both equally as good, but giving two different performances to make this wonderful ensemble scene. And it was really good that we managed to incorporate, or Russell T Davies managed to incorporate Catherine Tate as Donald Noble, because I think if that wasn't included in this special, I think there would have been a little bit of an uproar. I know it is mainly to do with the 10th Doctor and Wilfred and the Master and so forth, but it was good to at least have a cameo appearance, and rightly so. And yeah, I love it when Catherine is saying, "Don't you touch this car." It is good that they managed to incorporate that and obviously use her really well for the cliffhanger, which I'll get to a little bit later in this review. But like I said, great that Catherine Tate at least had one more go at Donna Noble for now. This episode had a really strong cast as well, starting off with Alexandra Moen, who returned as Lucy Saxon. And yeah, I felt sorry for her, really. I think the Doctor sort of nailed it. The forgotten woman, really, or I think that's what the Ood said. And the Doctor was kind of like, well, she was just, yeah, it's... and he had nothing to say about it. But yeah, she tried her best to stop the resurrection of the Master, but didn't quite happen. But again, like Catherine Tate, I'm glad they incorporated Lucy Saxon for this special. Then, as part of Wilfred Mott's crew to try and find the Doctor, we had Barry Howard, who was better known as being in the BBC comedy show Heidi High. The legendary June Whitfield as Minnie, who really is a sexual harassment waiting to happen. maybe that was Russell T Davies sort of harping on what the nation wanted to do with poor David Tennant's bottom at the time. David Hayward as Joshua Naismith, who a lot of people might known as appearing in Supergirl. So again, that was a pretty, cool sort of name. That's obviously a actor for me who's gone on for strength to strength. And Brian Cox, legendary film actor Brian Cox, being the voice of Ood Sigma as well. And least of not forgetting, of course, Timothy Dalton as the narrator. Again, we'll get to him just a little bit. This episode builds up the story quite nicely, putting all the pieces into place for that final part finale a week later. And it was all beautifully narrated by Timothy Dalton. He's got such a great voice, and again, a great coup to have as the final piece of your great ensemble cast for this final adventure. And then we get to the cliffhanger, and obviously the master has used all of his intelligence to basically convert the whole of the earth, all the humans, into himself, the master race. And and if that wasn't, the stakes wasn't raised enough, then you had obviously Donna starting to remember past adventure with the Doctor, which would obviously it's gonna burn, it's gonna hurt her, it's gonna kill her. So you kind of had this horrible cliffhanger of what's gonna happen to poor Donna, with Wilfred sort of on the phone, sort of hearing her in pain. And then if that wasn't bad enough, the narrator, the big reveal that Timothy Dalton is Lord President of Time Lords himself. Gallifrey is to return. The Time Lords are to return. And that was a nice big shocker for me. I didn't read as much dirt sheets as I do now in Doctor Who. And yeah, it was a really nice surprise. I would have to say there was another cliffhanger that could have been easily used halfway through this episode, with the narrator sort of saying about all the pieces coming together. The Master, in his empire of dust, not knowing what's going to happen, the Doctor trying to hold back on his fate of death, and the fools in the castle with their wonderful technology. And then obviously we see Timothy Dalton's face, and yeah, that could have easily hit that Doctor Who sting in there. That would have been pretty cool. But again, the cliffhanger, like I said, Time Lord's returning. Oh my, to be continued. I'm going to give The End of Time Part 1 a TARDIS rating of 7 out of 10. This was just a good story building episode leading up to the grand finale a week later on New Year's Day. And yeah, I had a lot of good time rewatching this again. Some great scene stealers there between the Master and the Doctor and Wilf, especially that cafe scene, and obviously there's more of those scenes to come. A trilogy of these heartbreaking scenes. Obviously a lot more in part 2. Again, it stirred up memories of me watching this on Christmas Day for the first time in 2009, and it didn't disappoint. And I just remember recording it because I had my granddad in my ear trying to wasn't a big fan of Doctor Who at the time, but it's Christmas Day, you gotta have your family around. And yeah, having to just really, if anything, just rewinding that final few seconds where you had that turnaround look of Timothy Dalton and the Time Lords return for Gallifrey, for victory, for the end of time itself. And yeah, it was just, it's fun to watch. Couldn't wait for part 2 to happen, and I hope you felt the same way too. Let me know in the comments below your thoughts to The End of Time Part 1. Did you enjoy this story build-up for the grand finale? And what's your thoughts on the wonderful emotional scene between the Doctor and Wilf in that cafe? Or even the Doctor and the Master in the Wastelands? Next time on Timey Wimey Review, I will be reviewing The End of Time Part 2. Until then, thank you very much for watching this video. I hope you've enjoyed this review. Please like the video, share the video, subscribe to the channel, hit the cloister bell for more notifications. Come say hello and follow me on Twitter at ReviewTimey. And please do check out my other videos from the Timey Wimey Review YouTube channel. And as the good doctor once said, oh, Merry Christmas.